The zodiac signs. If you are into astrology or spirituality, or even if you are not into any of those things, most likely you already heard about them. And today we are going to understand the meaning and the roots behind their names. Before we do that, we must understand in a general way what is astrology. So back in the day, people would understand that there was a pattern to the movement of the celestial bodies in the sky. And studying those movements, they could also understand the movement of the planet that we are in. And they realized that in different spaces, for us and for the other planets, the world would change. People will change. The seasons would change. Animals will change in a specific location. So they started to notice that. So what they did was just give names to those different stages and to those changes, so we could communicate with each other and say, look, we are in this season, name, and that means that the animals are more like this, people are more like that, and that's astrology in its basic sense. And it is with that perspective in mind that we are going to take a look at the names and the roots behind the zodiac names. Let's get started with the first zodiac, which is Aries. And the root Aries means literally ram, but there is also another root that means spring or jump. And that makes a lot of sense. The symbol for that sign is the head of a ram, and it brings the spring. It's the first season, the first out of 3 months of spring. And also, the part of jumping makes a lot of sense too, because Aries in general jump into conclusions. Also important to notice that when we say Aries or Taurus, we don't mean it in that way of like, oh my god, he's a Taurus or she's a Libra. Oh, I can't handle them. Oh, I love Libras. That perspective is very superficial because when people say that, they are referring to the sun sign. And in a natal chart, we have way more planets. So we are looking here for a more deep and overall meaning, not just to characterize people, but also seasons and overall energies and modes to do stuff and to react, to think, and to analyze. Aries, in this case, ram, jump, spring, and the symbol is the ram too, so that means that Aries like things, Aries like spirits, Aries like energy, they like to go head first into something, they like to headbutt with other people that want to headbutt as well, and they bring the spring, they bring new life, new excitement, new passion, or new frustration. So when something is Aries like, or when we have an influence in Aries or in the first house, that means whatever it is, your Mars or Venus, most likely will be a bit more confrontational. It will be more initiative, more spiritual, and more about life and its purpose. Then we move on to Taurus, which is the touro in Portuguese, for an example. And I think it's the Latin word for bull. And that one is kind of self-explanatory as well. The bull likes to sit and relax, but then it can get very aggressive very quickly, and it focuses on things very quickly too, and very deep. And once it starts running after you, only a wall or a fence will stop it. Also, they get super distracted by the cows. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? When the bull is causing problems, they bring a bunch of cows in, and the bull forgets immediately what he was doing, and it goes after the cows. So I'll let you conclude after that statement. And then bulls are also herbivores, that they spend a lot of time eating, they spend a lot of time digesting, but they are super strong, even though they eat a apparently nutritiously weak food, but because of their digestive system and because of how they live life, it ends up that they grow a lot and they have a lot of energy. And notice, if you are into astrology, you already perhaps know this, or you have a hint, there are a lot of zodiac signs that are from animals. That's because zodiac, the ac comes from 12, and zo comes from zoo. So the zodiac is, like I said earlier, giving names and characterizing, in this specific case, animalistic natures or the root natures that we use to come into this realm. So a lot of them will be animals, and those are a bit more self-explanatory. Then, for an example, now we go into Gemini. which is not an animal, it's not something natural. And if you noticed, all of the air signs have no animals, no birds, no anything. You have, for example, fire signs, Aries the ram, Leo the Leo, and even Sagittarius is half animal. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the water signs. You have Cancer, which is a crab, basically. We have Scorpio, which is a scorpion, and you have Pisces, which is Pisces. So very animalistic, more natural. And from there, you can already to start to infer certain conclusions. But we are going to talk about them. Then we have Gemini, and Gemini, gêmeos, means twins in Portuguese, and I'm pretty sure it's also the root in Latin for twins, Gemini. And it makes a lot of sense because Geminis, they are ruled by Mercury, so it's about their mind, about their thoughts, about the surroundings, and it's mutable air, so they can be very scattered and they can have less individuality and less uniqueness in their own perspective about themselves. That doesn't mean they don't have that, it's just how they see themselves in the world, especially if you or somebody else has Sun in Gemini. But the Gemini, the twins, come in play because a lot of times Geminis or Gemini-like things, they mirror something or they see themselves mirrored in the external realm, in the logical realm, in society, in conversations. That's a very important word because another mutable sign, Pisces later on, they do the same thing, but in all levels, emotional, spiritual, physical, business, relationships, they see themselves or they reflect the world in a very strong way. But Gemini goes a bit more specific, twins, right? So it refers a more human or more brotherly connection, a more connection of blood, family. So Geminis can also get lost into their connections, right, with the surroundings or with people that they like to conversate to or with subjects or topics that they can see themselves or the world reflected in. Because also the lack of individuality, for an example, can lead Geminis to praise what everybody else is praising. So in the way, they can get lost in their fake twin, in their doppelganger, because they are getting lost on an external image and they're forgetting about their spirit. On a good way, Geminis, twins, they can make themselves a twin of somebody real quickly. So they can get connections going very quickly and very smoothly. And the smart Geminis know how to not go too deep into unnecessary connections, and they know how to go deep in necessary connections. Now, moving on to Cancer, and Cancer here is very, very interesting because Cancer is the name of a disease, right? But also the symbol for Cancer usually is the crab. So we are here analyzing the names, but we could also analyze the symbols. They come from the same space, they come from the same spirits interpreting animalistic natures and spiritual behavior. So first, Cancer. Cancer is a disease that is like chronic. Basically, it's your body fighting against yourself. And interestingly, very recently, there were a scientific study that showed signs that Cancer is basically, in very general ways, certain cells of your body, they are going against the rest of your body because they are out of sync, because they are disconnected. And I've been saying that for a long time, but in a more astrological, spiritual set of words, where Cancer, the disease, and also Cancer-like things, they initiate new emotions and feelings. They initiate new purposes. They initiate new spiritual and emotional limits and boundaries. So if a group of spirits that then create cells and tissues and everything within you, if they create a new purpose, a new creed, a new religion, metaphorically speaking, they will go against the rest of your body that is on a separate creed, on a separate emotion, on a separate vibe. In that scientific study, it was an electric current. And then they were able to cure the cancer, quote unquote. It was still very primordial scientific experiment, of course, but they were able to reconnect, resync those aggressive cells, right? But Cancer comes from that, initiating a new vibe, a new purpose. And why does that translate into a disease? Because if you have new spirits or spirits with new purpose within you, they will not follow the same purpose that you as the main spirit, attracted all the other spirits to work with you through teamwork, making a dream work, and creating your body, mentality. Well, that's a more in-depth spirituality video. We are in Cancer here. We gotta go a bit deep, right? But Cancer, the word, I believe it means not the word, but the meaning where the word came from is that initiating a new emotion and a new feeling. And then we have the crab as the animal representation, and the crab is hard on the outside but really soft on the inside. It can live underwater. Some crabs can live out of the water as well, and they walk sideways. They're a bit awkward, and they have pincers, those little things that hurt, right? And they are hard on the outside. Cancers, they are able to use their opposite sign to create new limits and boundaries physically, but they're always very soft inside. They might not show it, but they're always very open, very mellow. They might do it and interpret that in different ways, but they always boil down to that in a higher or lower level of intensity, but they're always more soft on the inside. And then they walk sideways because they are all about creating moods. Sometimes they don't really make progress forwards because they keep walking sideways in the new mood that they created, or trying to change the mood of the space or situation that they are in, trying to claim some spiritual and emotional authority. Their opposite signs, Capricorn, they do the same, but through business, through contracts, through showing something externally, applying physical limits and boundaries. Moving on to Leo, and Leo is Leão in Portuguese. I'm pretty sure it's also the Latin origin for the word lion, and it's the lion, the lion, you know, it has, first it's yellow. It is actually, it's very interesting because the lion is considered the king of the jungle, and the lion doesn't live in the jungle, it lives in the savannah and is not the king. So Leo is kind of like that. They show this light, and many times, that's why sometimes Leo, they catch some stray bullets because people do this to them, where people see them in a higher light than what the Leo actually is. And then the Leos, most of them, they'll just accept that validation because first is natural to them, and why not? And then you have the opposite, Aquarius, that they'll do the opposite. They receive high praise, and they be like, actually, no, I wasn't that good. Then they start to be super realistic and they bring the vibe down. And then when somebody talks them badly, they be like, actually, you know what? Because of this and because of that, you're wrong. Because supposedly, and then they always try to, through opposition, find balance. While Leos, they are more accepting and they are more like, if bad light or good light, they'll support that. They'll try, even if you give them bad light, even if you say that the lion is not the king of the jungle, there will be always somebody trying to explain why it is. And also the lion is a lot about the hair around their face. That brings an image and a sensation of abundance, presence, attitude. And Leos, mostly, or Leos-like thing, are about showing, being seen, representing something. And the hair around the lion's head, it's exactly not only for that, but also for protection. And that's also Leos, how they protect themselves and the things that they like to pay attention to or receive attention from, or people that they validated themselves and they support them or pay attention to them, or the Leos are paying attention to them, so they want others to validate them, so they try to protect them with that showing, with that presence, not necessarily with logic or actions or proofs or like literal things. Sometimes they do that just to show their point, to keep that image going, to protect something that is dear to them, which is in the neck zone of the body that the Leos and the lions protect with that hair, with that showing, with that presence. Then we move to Virgos. And Virgo is very interesting because Virgo, I think, also comes from Latin, and in Portuguese we call it virgin. So in Portuguese we call it virgem, which is the virgin. And Virgos are very virgin-like because virgins, when it comes to sexuality, they're always a bit afraid, but at the same time a bit like curious. But they always have that novice experience, that novice attitude. And Virgos, they might be the master at something. They might be studying something for 30 years, and they will kind of always have that vibe with them or around them because of their element, mutable earth, and then being ruled by Mercury. They always looking for more answers, looking for more questions, not sure if everything is stable and organized. And if things are stable and organized, they can be more organized, they can get more stable. And if they can't get more stable or more organized, they can get more efficient or they can get more profitable. You know what I'm saying? So Virgos, they kind of always like virgins because they have that nervosism, but also that curiosity, that desire always going with them. And they also are very sensible. They feel like Pisces a lot, but from different areas, more from the physical realm, more from business, structure, organization, profit, and survivability. But they're also very sensitive like virgins are. And they're also very desirable in a weird way, especially more back in the day, the world way. Virgins were very desirable because nobody was there first. There was nothing into that space first. And Virgos, they can feel like that, especially to people that are very deorganized. They can feel pure, or they can purify me, or they're always pure, they're always organized, they're always clean. But you don't know, in the Virgo's mind, a million worries going on, a million stress going on, but they're looking real cute to you, they're looking real organized, they have a pen, they have a notebook, or they have an iPad, or it's in their mind, and they can talk to you like they look really organized, controlled, and pure, but it's not. But the word Virgo and Virgin mainly means that nervousness, that look, that vibe of being inexperienced, of being not ready, and very sensitive. But they are. It's just how people from the external perspective look at them. Then, on the other side, or next to Virgo, we have Libra. And Libra, the scales, it's all about balancing, weighting, and valuing stuff, right? Libra, it's all about that. It's all about value. And it's not just about, oh, my value, go girl. It's about understanding like the value of things. That's what scales, what Libras were used back in the day in the market. It was to check the value of something. But before you can use the scales to check the value of something, somebody else had to give it value. Oh, this piece of meat costs $5. Why? Because of production costs, transport costs, supply and demand. So that value, in conjunction with Taurus, because they're both ruled by Libra, comes from those spaces, from fixed earth and cardinal air. And Libras, they always try to balance things, or they are always being balanced by others, because Libras that are not valuing themselves, or if they have too much Libra energy or too much weird energy that doesn't go well with the Libra alignment, they will choose subconsciously or consciously to consistently and frequently take the short end of the stick. So they're always being balanced. They were on the high horse, and then there was something coming into the balance that brings them to a middle term. But they like to do that a lot with others. That's why they initiate cardinal air, they initiate new conversations, new subjects, and new ways to be sophisticated or intellectual, and they can always bring others to balance, from a high position to a balance point, or from a low position to a balance point. Next on, we have Scorpio, the Scorpion, right? And that has a lot of meanings to them. Scorpios, they can be poisonous, they are toxic, they have the pincers in the front, but also the tail in the back. So you might be fighting with their pincers, and then they sting you from the back. You know what I'm saying? And but Scorpions are also very about connection. Scorpions as well, the animals, they have a lot of little kids, and then when they can come in very big groups actually. So Scorpios, they look like they're not sociable. They be catching stray bullets because they are more internal, they're more private, they are fixed and stubborn in being internal, in being private, in spending a lot of time and energy in their own emotions and feelings, in their own desires, in their own passions and frustrations. So they might not seem like they are connective, they might not seem like they are social, but they are. They just need to find a group of Scorpions as well. You know what I'm saying? To form a cyclone, I think it's what's called a group of Scorpions. I think that's something to do with like weather as well. Sorry for being wrong here, maybe. But Scorpios, they can come together in huge pools. They just need to find more scorpions. You know what I'm saying? And of course, they are poisonous. But Scorpio poison can also be used for antidotes and for medicine. You know what I'm saying? Then moving on to Sagittarius, and I think this one here is one of the most interesting names because we have Sagitta, that is usually referred as an arrow because the constellation of Sagittarius supposedly is pointing to the center of the galaxy. And that's very important because it's through the center of the galaxy that very new spirits to this specific galaxy come in, and very old and wise spirits come out. So it's like the heart, the womb of the galaxy. So in a very spiritual way, if you know through the stars where it is, if there is something pointing at it, you can focus on it and try to understand that space with your spirit. But more than that, Sagittarius is also represented by half man, half animal. So it represents the transition from Aries to Scorpio, the most animalistic, the most natural signs, energies, and groups of spirits, then the transition into Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, the highest, more spiritual, logical, and profitable and efficient signs, right? So we have half horse coming from there because it's on the bottom, so it's coming from those animalistic natures, then into a man, more logical, more organized nature, and then pointing to the center of the galaxy. So it also represents at the same time an evolution beyond of the human logical mind. So Sagittarius might seem offensive to the lower signs, quote unquote, but it's actually, if you're being offended by that, it's offensive to every signs because it's representing that there is more beyond even the highest animalistic natures in this realm. Then we have Capricorn, and Capricorn is very interesting because in Portuguese, and always remember, Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, they come from Latin, and Latin used to be the language back in the day, like Greek was, like French was some centuries ago, and like English is today, and other languages throughout history, of course. So a lot of Portuguese and Spanish words, for example, even though they are not Latin, they come from the same root and they carry the same meaning. So Capricorn, what comes to mind for me is capricho, and the capricho is a very specific, very niche desire, or you being super focused on a task and doing it very well, doing it very efficiently. And Capricorn, and Capri, it comes from cabra, which is goat as well, and Capricorn is associated with the devil, with Saturn, like goats are. And when you are the greatest of all time, you are the goat, because you have because Capricorn is a 10th house. It's the highest extension of the physical natures. It's the most evolved physical nature. So you are the goat, you are the Capricorn, because you are establishing new limits. You are establishing new records. You are establishing new feats, new status. Because when you are the goat, it means you are the greatest of all time. So before you, there was nobody better than you. So you created a new limit. You created a new status. You created a new position. Goat of all time, greatest of all time, right? So Capricorn, then we have corn in the end. And corn, there is a lot of things about corn mazes, aliens, and the most alien spirits are the ones coming from Saturn. The spirits that in a human body have in their natal chart a lot of Aquarius and a lot of Capricorn, because Saturn is the most distant that still influences us, because Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are too far away. That's why they are only co-rulers. So Saturn is the most distant to the Earth. So Saturn-like things are very alien and very different and very sometimes scary, or just doesn't make any sense at all, to more earthly, more moony, more sunny type spirits. But we're all here together, you know what I'm saying? We all need each other in different ways. So corn is also associated with mazes, and the brain looks like a maze, and Aquarius and Capricorn associated with the brain, logicality, intelligence, also associated with aliens. It's a great crop as well. So Capricorn, it's, I think, the most complex name. We have Capri from goat, and goats are very weird, man. I don't know, like goats, they walk on the mountains, man. They go against each other as well, like rams, but they're not rams. They're a bit different. They're associated with the devil, with Saturn, which is basically the same thing, because, like I said, Saturn is the opposing to Jesus, and Jesus is the sun. And Saturn rules Aquarius. Aquarius opposes Leo. Saturn is the furthest away, so everything seems in reverse when you receive it down here on Earth. That's a long video, actually. Let's not. But Capricorn, the name itself comes from that complexity, because it's the first of the most complex signs: Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So it makes sense that it's still like very combobulated, because those spirits are still not being able to be super efficient. That's why they are cardinal Earth. If they initiate new ways to be efficient, it doesn't mean it's super efficient just yet. Moving on to Aquarius, and Aquarius is another one that doesn't have an animal representation. In the first word, or the first representation that comes to my mind, is aquarium. And what is an aquarium? Is a separation, limits and boundaries, Saturn, where you put fish or reptiles. So it's basically separating, organizing animalistic natures. And not only that, then in aquarium you create an environment for those animalistic natures to thrive, and then you can look at them. It can be for safety, it can be for entertainment, it can be for profit, but Aquarius, it's all about that. It's fixed air, having your own fixed or stubborn way to think, communicate, and analyze about yourself and about the world, about reality. And that's why Aquariuses, even though they in conjunct Virgos, they misunderstand, they relate with each other a lot, because they're both about organizing, categorizing, study something, analyzing, giving it meaning, giving it names. But Aquariuses go a bit more extreme on that, because the planet that rules Virgo, which is Mercury, is exalted in Aquarius. So Aquarius go even further. They organize their own mind, their own feelings, their past, their future. Then they see something from somebody or from the world. They try to organize it and place it in the box, give it a name, put it close to other box. So if this box, I don't know, this box has a certain topic, it's close to this box, or it's close to this aquarium, so they must mean a general same thing. They're in the, bro, I know this, I have Aquarius stellium. I could be talking about this all day because I do this myself. And this is superpower and a super curse at the same time. Just like Virgos, overthinking and overanalyzing, you just need to find the right way to overthink, or you need to find the right thing to overthink and overanalyze about. And Aquarius is really that. Aquarium, separating life forms, separating thought forms, separating feeling forms, and then looking at them or bringing somebody else so you can show them, look at my aquarium, look at my aquariums, look at my collection of thoughts and ideas and feelings and whatnot. And then they take pride to that, especially if people have Sun or Mercury in Aquarius. They take pride in showing their library of thoughts and feelings inside of their aquariums, separated, keyword separated and organized. The Aquarius do that with their thoughts, with their family, with their friends, with their job, with everything. But then they're the most humanitarian as well, so that's why they're weird. You know what I'm saying? Because they're super detached, but super connective, super social, super for the world, but fuck you world at the same time. Then, lastly but not least, we have Pisces. And Pisces, Peixes in Portuguese, Pisces in Latin, and they are depicted by two fishes, two Peixes, two Pisces. That comes back to the mirroring of Gemini, but Pisces, they represent a very group of spirits because they are mutable water, so they can be mutable and adaptable with their feelings and emotions, imaginations, dreams, nightmares, goals, memories. So they can be very mutable with everything basically, because remember, life comes out of water, and there are immense amounts of species of fishes, and especially it's about schooling, it's about grouping everything together in a big ball. You see, the transition Aquarius did that too, but they had their aquariums all separated, and the Aquarius be like, bro, fuck them limits, fuck them boundaries, we all fishes together, we all swim together. And then fishes, there is like a theory that you can separate one fish from the school, but they will be sharing imaginations, they will be sharing spiritual spaces. So imagine you are in the Atlantic Ocean, there is a school of fish, you take one fish, you bring that fish to Australia, and they are still in the same imagination. in the same spiritual space. And Pisces is really about them. Far away in the body, close in the spirit, with too much things sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Pisces, they sometimes get mental illness or emotional illness because they're too connected with everything. But with a great curse comes with a great power. Because if they connected with everything, they can profit from everything. They can make everything feel better. They can make everything feel magical. Or they can make everything feel logical, but in the right way. Especially to people that are over logical, Pisces can make everything come together and can make every different separation that the super logical people did. And Pisces bring them all together, all back into the school, all back together. Let's go, guys, go. And then everybody goes into the volcano. You know what I'm saying? Now, just joking. Pisces are also those that attract a lot, like the most jokers, the most secret lovers or secret haters, because everybody loves Pisces. They have that great energy. They connected to everything. They can make you connected to everything, so be careful. And they can make everything make sense, or they can make nothing make sense. It's all about that schooling, grouping together. Yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you understand now the origin of the names of the zodiac signs and what that means about people, places, things, spirits, and energy that are associated with those names and those meanings. I wish you the best thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotion, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity, and responsibility as well. Believe in yourself and in all possibilities, and remember, the best way to be is to be your goddamn self. See you next time.